All right, how's it going out there on a Sunday? Today is July 26, 2020. How you doing out there? Good to see y'all on a Sunday afternoon, ready to talk some Falcons for a change. It seems like all the other sports are getting started. The Braves off and kicking, getting ready to actually start here in the next couple of minutes. The Atlanta Dream are playing right now. I think they had a slight lead the last time I checked. Major League Soccer, with the exception of Frank DeBoer, is in the Atlanta United and not in it anymore. Frank DeBoer is looking for his next gig up. And looks like the Atlanta Falcons are ready to start this thing off. Rookies showing up for camp today. Is that crazy? I mean, that is pretty good. Can you believe that? So let's see how that ends up. Hopefully we'll get some good feedback today on, I know last week the AtlantaFalcons.com came out with their offense and their defensive list, but they also came out Friday with a top 50 of the decade list. And we'll talk about that a little bit more and also talk about some things going into camp. What's up, Brother Tidy? How you doing? Good to see you in there. Getting ready to just, I think, kick this thing off, man. I'm still in the camp of wait and see. I think football still has a good, couple of weeks before they have to make major decisions on the season. But it seems like baseball has gotten off to a pretty good start. Thing that kind of worries me as far as football is concerned, as opposed to the other sports, is that there are just so many other football players. When you're talking about basketball, 5-on-5, yes, there's a lot of people and a lot of close contact, so you have to be careful. Like my brother Lou Williams, we'll get on that. We'll get in that in a few minutes. But with football, is that many more players. So you're talking about 11 players, and you're talking about 11 folks that you're saying to yourself, hey, I'm going to need you guys to stay clean. Do what you need to do. Don't go to the wrong places. Don't go to places where there could be a higher risk of some type of being able to catch it from someone else, like i.e. A strip club, i.e. Magic City. You got to stay away from places where, people are condensed and stuff. That's the only way that you're going to be able to get through this thing. I'm hoping the football players are watching what's going on with baseball. A little bit of concern about the dialogue I'm hearing from our person in Todd Gurley. Hey, brother Darius, how you doing, sir? I'm a little concerned about his dialogue, and I don't mind him being concerned, as you should be concerned. We all should be concerned. This is something, again, that no one knows about. So I'm not criticizing Todd Gurley's cautiousness, because these are things we don't know about. So maybe he wants to look at some of the other sports and see how they start. I think that's the great thing about football angle of this. They have an opportunity to see how baseball does it. Next week, they'll get a chance. Well, they're seeing now with the scrimmage games, seeing how the NBA does it. They've got an idea of how soccer is doing it. You have had one or two tests positive here or there, but for the most part, you haven't seen or heard any word of anything spreading greatly yet. And let's hope that stays that way, because other than that, it's going to be hard to start the season. Jimmy, how you doing, sir? I hope the whole Saints offense gets it. Oh, that's horrible. But I'm on those same lines. And no love here for the Saints at all. Listen, when we start talking about what the Atlanta Falcons need to do to get this season started off, I mean, we have to attack those first couple of opponents we have. You know, the Seattles, the Chicagos, the Detroits, we have to get off to a good start. We can't mess around and do the 1-3 thing or the 1-4 thing again. If we do, we have to bid so long and send Dan Quinn to where Frank DeBoer is going to look for his job. We cannot afford to start bad again this year. So let's have a great start to the season and see where that goes. Absolutely. Hey, what's going on, Perry? How you doing, sir? Girly comments makes you think why the Falcons was in the rumors for the 49ers running back. You know, it does make you wonder. I'll say this, Perry. If Gurley decides to either wait a little bit or make some other decision, I'm not in a rush to grab any running backs right now. I'm not saying we're in a great position, but I do say that we're in a position where we can at least we'll need a bell cow running back, but I'm not ready to rush in and just grab Mozart yet. I think he had a great season with San Francisco. It's a reason why he's probably asking for a trade, probably because he knows he's going to probably be the odd man out. They probably want Coleman in there more. I know Breida just left. They just signed somebody else. I forgot who it was. You guys have to remind me a little bit. What's up, John? How you doing? You better keep everybody on lockdown. Hey, that's the thing here. Perry says Seahawks getting Adams makes our job even harder in week one. Let me tell you something about the Jamal Adams trade. And y'all work with me if y'all see this is Steve here. And again, if you guys want to join me today, you see the number down there. Give me a call and we'll start. We'll open that up in another 10 to 15 minutes if you do want to talk about it live for a couple of minutes. The Jamal Adams thing is very interesting to me. And let me start off by saying he is very good at his position. Seattle, to me, I think Seattle is trying to recreate the Legion of Boom Part 2, I should say, because really what made the Legion of Boom what it was those safeties. When you had Chancellor and Thomas in there, I know Richard Sherman gets all the headlines because he talks the most, but those two guys anchored that defense in there. You had the Bennett's, you had the Avrils, you had you have Wagner and people of that ilk. Don't get me wrong, but those centers, those guys were the ones who held it down in the middle. And I think those are the ones that I'm looking. Those are the guys that I think Seattle missed when they came here for their playoff game and they were missing Earl Thomas. it was obvious that they missed him in that middle. People were running right up the middle. That's what Earl Thomas did. He gave him a little bit of defense in the back so they could run up there. I don't think this is as big of a move as people think it is. I think the Seattle Legion of Boom thing is gone. And it's kind of a good thing for other teams. They're nowhere near as strong of a defense that they had. I'm more scared about Russell Wilson than I am about Jamal Adams. While it's a significant move for Seattle, no need to fear, no need. The point spread is not going to move a point because Jamal Adams is on the defense. I think at the end of the day, Seattle moves and grooves with new daddy Russell Wilson on their team. As Russell goes, that team goes. That's the guy that you want to make sure that you take care of when you start talking about that. John says, Jimmy says, Adam doesn't scare me. Doesn't scare me either. John says that leash on Quinn's got to be tighter when United fire all behinds. Start at 0-3, 1-4 if you want to. You're in the street. I believe that. Yeah. Dan Quinn in the first 4 games has to be at least 2-2. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like we have a powder puff schedule. So 2-2, that's better than 0-4 and it's better than 1-3. But I do agree with you to a certain extent. Jory, what's going on, man? How you doing? I do believe the leash is definitely shorter than it has been and definitely tighter around the neck than it's been in the last 2 years. He almost got a mulligan going into the 2019 because our defense was so ravaged in 2018 when you lost Neal, you lost Jarrod for a amount of time, you lost Debo for most of the season. Rico was gone for a lot of that season too. So you got a little bit of a reprieve going into 2019. Now that jump they put on the field in 2019 was embarrassing in the first half of the year. So all those things that you had before, all those things they're missing. It's going to be a quick hook, and you'll see Raheem Morris get elevated into that job quickly, unless Raheem is doing a bad job with the defense. You'll see a quick change this year. Trust me, if Atlanta doesn't come out to a good start. Before I start getting into a lot of the topics, I wanted to talk about this top 50. I'm going to get Darius' comment. Brother Darius says it's a big move for Adams. Of course, a person is not going to get recognized for their talent on the field when he's playing on a losing team. But with him going to the Seahawks, it's given their secondary a better position to compete. But overall, I don't fear him because I know our Falcons will beat them. And look, Jamal Adams is a talent. He moves the meter for Seattle because they didn't have anybody in the safety position. So good for them that they were able to do that. But to your point, I don't see any reason for us to start getting scared and start acting like we need to pack up and move out. I like what we have on our team going into the year. We're going to talk about that in a couple of seconds. Top 50 players of the decade. And I know they went through the list of the offense and defense. How much do you disagree with this? I'm pretty solid with the majority of the picks. And keep in mind, 2010 to 2019. So that doesn't take the whole, all of Matt Ryan here from 08 to 09, from 2010 to last year. Number one player, I don't think you can argue that. Even folks who hate him with a passion, Matt Ryan, the team moves and grooves as Matt Ryan moves. I have zero problem with the number 2 person on this list, Julio Jones. Definitely a player that every defense fears in the NFL. I have no issue with that at all. And this list comes from AtlantaFalcons.com, by the way. Number 3 player of the decade, according to AtlantaFalcons.com, Roddy White. No problem with the Roddy White designation as the number 3 player for a long time. He was definitely the player in that offense, so I don't have a problem with that. Okay, we get to number 4. And I know sentimentally, when you start talking about the Seattle game and you start talking about the Seattle playoff game, and you talk about a lot of big wins and stuff, they have Matt Bryant as the 4th best player of the decade. I have no problem having Matt Bryant on the list, and I probably would give him a mulligan for them putting him at number 10. But best players of the decade, when you hear some of these names behind him, it's going to make you wonder, like, really? Number 4. Okay, so let's go straight to number 5 just to see where that goes. So number 5 is Tony Gonzalez. And I know Tony Gonzalez starting from 2010, and then he only went to 2013. That's 4 seasons. I put Tony Gonzalez ahead of Matt Bryant when you start talking about most significant Falcons in the last decade. Number 6, Alex Mack. Alex Mack, to me, solidified what was a porous, weak offensive line prior to 2015. And basically took the same cats who were here in 2015 and turned them into a Super Bowl winning offensive line. Or I should say anchored them and probably led them to being as good as they are. In my opinion. Number 7, and I'm going to get to y'all comments here in a second. Number 7, Grady Jarrod. Now, that's somebody I would be willing to jump up a little bit. I have no problem with him being first recognized as the top defensive player of the decade. No doubt we have been missing that D tackle for a long time in our on our defensive line, and Grady was a steal in the 5th round. So good job that time, right? Noticing him at Clemson and being able to pick him up. Grady at number 7 definitely needs to be higher as far as I'm concerned. Number 8, Jake Matthews, 2014 to 2019. I'm pretty sure there are going to be some folks that take some exception to that. There were 2 years there where it seems like Jake was really doing his thing, but to me, that's no different than what's my man name we gave the money to, and then he turned out to be garbage, and I'll get him in a second. The other tackle, Schrader, that we paid the money to. Jake Matthews, still, to me, living off that Matthews name, definitely, I would not put him in the top 10 as far as players in this decade. Number 9, probably the sleeper player in the top 10, and I don't have a problem putting him in here, Jonathan Babano. Nothing but consistent. Glad he got an opportunity to play on that Super Bowl team. He deserved it for what he had to go through the other years he was here, which also leads into the late part of the early 2000s. Good pick as far as that's concerned. I would love to see him maybe a notch higher, but have no problem with it. And John Abraham, just the 3 seasons that he played with us in the decade, definitely worthy of being put on this list. By far the best pass rusher we've had in the last 20 years. He's probably on both lists, the 2000, the 2009 list, and the 2010, the 2019 list. So who do y'all think? Anybody, any glaring omissions on here? I can go down the list, but I just wanted to go to the top 10. Matt Bryant, but I like most of the other stuff we saw down there. Chadwick says, the better the teams we play, the better we play, we will crush the Seahawks. I hope we beat them, crush strong, but coming out of the box, that would be a nice statement that we put down there. Tidy says, Matt Bryant should be number 4, rightfully deserved. He kicks so many game winners. I don't have a problem with the recognition of him kicking game winners. I have a problem with him being as high as he is. Tidy said I would put Mack at number 5. Okay, I can go with that. And you said who was 9 and 10? 9 and 10 was Babano, Babano at number 9 and Abraham at number 10. And no secret that because these guys were defensive players and our defense struggled most of the decade, I think that's why you see a lot of the defensive guys down the line. Matter of fact, I know Trufant was on this list pretty close to the top 10. And the mere fact that Desmond Trufant is number 12 on a list of players of the decade lets you know probably how off our defense has been this decade. And truly, they have been. Let's switch gears for 1 second. I was thinking about the Jamal Adams trade, and we start talking about what we need on defense, folks. I know our money is short, and we spent a lot of money on Dante Fowler and Todd Gurley on offense, which are two shrewd moves. Here's my problem. We still have a secondary that's going to consist of probably Sheffield starting, probably A.J. Terrell starting, Bryant, and I'm sorry, Bryant Oliver. Isaiah Oliver starting in your secondary. Where's the veteran defensive back? And I know I saw a couple of lists that had Logan Ryan still out there available. And the problem is he's going to demand a lot of money. Not to say he's, Darrelle Revis or anything like that. But you need to have some veteran presence in the defensive backfield. And I don't think we have it. And I'm a little afraid of what our defensive backfield is going to look like going into the season. Look, we have to trade Brady 2 times, and granted, that's at the end, near the end of the year. Same for Drew Brees. But we need to have a secondary ready to roll by the time we get to those games. I have had an opportunity to go and start looking at some of the stuff A.J. Terrell was doing at Clemson. I want to have some faith in them. My eyes saw what they saw when the lights were shining the brightest. So I understand, injury or not, as people tried to make excuses for him. But let's hope coming into this camp, he does what he needs to do and shines a little bit. Toddy says, Abe at number 10. How? Well, I think, what I think what happens in lists like this, they become offensive dominating, and where you have a lot of offensive players in there. They had to try to put some defensive players in. Let's be honest. Again, over this decade, what memorable / strong defensive players have we had on this team in the last decade? I'll wait. There haven't been. Aside of Grady, there have not been any significant people. I'm not talking about these blips on the screen, see Vic Beasley. I'm talking about consistent defensive players over the last 10 years. This team has been known for putting up points for the most part over the last decade. We haven't been known for stopping people. We haven't been known for 3rd and 1 and stacking up the person at the line. We've been known for trying to score 28 to 30 points a game. So when you start talking about Abraham was here during that 2010 run and 2011 and 12 when they were making the playoffs. And he was a significant force. So you have to give him credit on what he's done so far. I do. What's up, Philip? How you doing, sir? Rise up to you. We are talking about the list that the AtlantaFalcons.com came out with, top 50 players over the last 10 years for the Atlanta Falcons. Also talked a little bit about the Jamal Adams trade from the Jets to Seattle. And then, boy, Seattle unloaded on that too. Now, the Jets look and say, hey, I get a first-round pick. Kind of depends on what Seattle does. I'm not totally sold on Seattle as this great team. I do think as long as Russell Wilson stays upright, I think they're a playoff team. So I can see them possibly making the playoffs. But as far as what position that number one pick will be, and you're talking about the Jets probably getting a pick in the 20s for these next 2 years. But that's a big haul. 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and I don't even know who the other safety they gave up. But that's a lot. RJ rides up. Stephen, love your show, brother. Thank you, sir. Chadwick says Spoon. You know what? And I would be willing to give Spoon, but Spoon has to have an asterisk, man, because you got to stay on the field. I guess they are awarding longevity in this because I'm looking at Babano. Obviously, Matt Bryant was here during most of that time. Babano stayed for 6 years. I think that's the only reason you see Jake Matthews in the top 10 because he's been here for a couple of times. I've been here for a couple of years. Yeah, Grimes as well, but Grimes was here for only a small part of the decade, if you really think about it, before he took off. Grimes deserves some look. I think he's on the list, but I think he's further down. But no problem with having them on the list. But hey, Brother Darius, how you doing? Rise up. Okay, since you explained it, I can go for Abe at number 10. And that's the thing. But am I saying something? I want to make sure, though. Am I saying something that makes sense? What significant, sans Grady, what significant defensive player has been on this team significant now? I'm not talking about solid play. If I say solid players, you'll put Rico on there. Ricardo Allen. What significant defensive players have we had over the last decade? You should be able to say it like that, but we really haven't. The fact that Jonathan Babano, who I give all love to because Jonathan Babano did a lot of stuff for us. I got much love for Babano. But when you pass Grady, it's not a lot. I give Dion a lot of credit because he's on the uptick. That one season he got hurt kind of slowed him down. He showed definitely signs last year. I think this year he's ready to explode this year and come back and give us that full Debo mode that we need. And look, with the moves we made on defense and the folks we brought in, especially on the line, the redemption of Tack has to look at himself in the mirror and say to himself, I need to be one of those defensive guys they're talking about 10 years from now for the next list. I mean, what they've done over the last decade does not merit a lot of players being in this top 10. It really doesn't. So you have to take that little 2.5 year thing with Abe and give it what it is. I mean, that's true. Chadwick says true. Tidy says Abe had 45 sacks this decade. He deserves it. Absolutely. And I blame Mike Smith. As much junk as people give Mike Smith over the years, as much as he gives, as much junk as we give him, he made one of the biggest mistakes ever in his coaching career with Abe. Philip says, are we looking to pick up any defensive players? I would hope so. And we were just talking about it a second ago, possibly at cornerback, Philip. I hope we end up trying to pick up somebody because we do need some help back there in our secondary. Our secondary is very young. And that secondary can do one or two things. They can be young like Seattle Seahawks were a decade ago and just play up, or they can be young all year. And when they go up against Tom Brady with Evans, Gronk, and Goodwin, or go up against Breeze with Thomas. What's the boy's name from Denver? They just picked up. Losing my mind. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The guy they picked up from Denver. We have to step our game up in that secondary because these quarterbacks will be coming for us. They will. And so I think that's what scares me as far as these guys are concerned. Chadwick says Trufant. Well, as far as the decade concerned, Chadwick, let me tell you something. Trufant had 2 good years. And one of them was last year. Trufant was actually pretty solid last year. But the only other year Trufant was solid was the year before the Super Bowl. And remember, prior to the Super Bowl, he was having an okay year, nothing all pro worthy. But the year prior to the Super, going into his contract year before that, he was actually having a pretty okay campaign. That's a number 1 pick, man. Number 1 picks, I expect so much more from them. Trufant should have been in the top 10. And not when I say should have been, let me correct that. If he plays up to his potential, he should be in the top 10. But he's not. And to me, they have him at 12. I think he should be lower than that. I would put Alfred above him. Alfred was the 2nd round pick. A lot of people didn't like Alfred. I liked Alfred a lot more than Trufant. And especially for the money we ended up giving away. We gave away more money for Trufant than we did. And don't get me started on Tidy's favorite player, Devonta Freeman. We paid those guys giveaway money. So when you start talking about significant defensive players, I know Freeman's also offensive, just giving Tidy a shot. But when you start talking about significant players and what they've done over this past decade, I can't put Trufant in that category. Not for consistent play. Not for consistent play. And I'm about to make y'all mad. I think D'Angelo played a better cornerback here than Trufant did over his years. And I really believe that. Chadwick says Brady would get killed by game 4. Welcome to the NFC South. I think that could be true. Tidy says Trufant was good, a solid 4 years. I'm not going to disagree with you, but my definition of solid is a little bit better than what he gave us. Solid, maybe. Trufant was a great cover corner in his day. I just couldn't catch. And I'm sorry, Steve. He was quite a bit better than Alfred. Let me tell you, the biggest difference between Alfred and Trufant, both of them were fast. I think Alfred actually had a little bit more speed. Alfred never learned how to not grab on. And that's significant because when it's all said and done, you're right, Tidy. Trufant is going to go down as better than Alfred. But I think if you had the right folks back there really teaching Alfred, I would have taken so much more of a chance on a lower tier contract, something where you give him $45 million a year. It's not like Alfred broke the bank when he went to Arizona, but I would have given him more of a middle tier contract to come back and keep improving on his craft. The one thing you can say about Alfred, you never saw Alfred get run past as much. I can't say never. You didn't see him get run past as much as you did see True. That's a fact. True could not keep up with a lot of guys in the NFL. When I see Ted Ginn, gray hairs falling out, running past him 2 years ago in the Superdome, I say to myself, okay, that was it for me. But we had just signed him to the contract, so we couldn't do that. I'm just not feeling on that. Markeith rides up. My brother Trufant was never the same after he tore his pec. Fair point. I don't know if that was if that played with his mind or whatever. He was never as aggressive afterwards to me. I might give you credit on that. And I'll even go one step further, Markeith, and say last year, so that was what, 2 years removed from the pec injury? Maybe it took him that long to recover. He had a good year. Arguably may have had one of his best years last year, even with the rough start that we had at the beginning of the season. But at the end of the season, Trufant was balling. He really was in the defensive backfield, in definition of balling. But he was doing much better than you probably would have thought. Led the team in interceptions too. You say what you want to say. Kenzel said y'all gave love to Patrick Kearney. Patrick Kearney, I'm gonna give some love to him. I can't give more love to him than I give to Abe, but Kearney was definitely one of those cats, the kind of forgotten cat. But Kearney was more towards the Vic years, though, right? I'm trying to think, was he here during the 2010s as much? I could be wrong. Maybe. Somebody correct me. Double check me. I'm not looking at my stats right now. Double check me on that one right there. I like Kearney, but I thought he was a little closer towards the Vic years, but maybe so. Tidy says, if we're being honest, True and Alfred were both overpaid. I'll give you that. Anthony Moss, you never saw Alfred run away from Nick Chubb either. That's true. You're right about that. Lisa said, hey, Lisa, how you doing? Who on our defense gave up that spin move to Breeze two seasons ago? Was that Beasley? No, that was that Rico? I'm trying to think, was that Rico? Who was that? That might have been Rico. But I know what you're talking about. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, was that? Who was that? I know the play you're talking about. It was at the Dome. Yeah. I'm not sure if that was Beasley, though. Markeith, I'm sorry, Titus says True only had one season where guys ran past him, and that was due to Dan Quinn's terrible schemes. I can't disagree with Dan Quinn's terrible schemes, no doubt on that. Markeith Alfred had the highlight of the freaking decade. He was the hero during the first half of the incident. Yeah, actually he was. Tidy, Kearney left here in 06 with Vic. I thought so, yeah. I noticed I had to jog the memory. It's a lot of gray hairs over here, Tidy. Don't give me a little bit of break. Tidy says Brian Poole. That was Brian Poole. Oh, that's okay. You know what? That's probably what that was. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys. Poole. Yeah, we made Breeze look real good on that. Anytime we make Drew Brees look good, that hurts me to my core when we start doing that. Is there when we start talking about the rookies who are coming in this year, and I had it pulled up, and I apologize. I'm going back in here. What rookie are you looking forward to? And the reason why I'm bringing them up, because the Falcons rookies, they're showing pictures of them on the AtlantaFalcons.com website, showing up to training camp. What rookies are we looking forward to seeing this year? Granted, we're not going to see them in preseason. So basically what we see in practice is what we're going to get. Knowing what we've seen from them, the highlights and all of that, which rookie to you is going to make the biggest impact? Obviously, AJ Terrell had better make an impact. We need him to really show up because secondary, they're young. I know they were on the uptick. I have preached that all during the offseason. I loved what they were doing in the last half of the season. Let's hope that they can keep that up. And does AJ fit that? Defensive tackle, Marlon Davidson from Auburn, the second round pick for the Falcons. Does he end up being that monster that we need inside with Grady? Do they slip him to the outside a little bit and keep things going with him to make that great tandem in the middle? Or do you give Tack some plays off and let Mr. Davidson wreak havoc off the edge? At 300 pounds, I still think you need to put him on the inside. But at the same time, I can understand whichever you want to do. You got a good athlete, you use him however you want to use him. Mack Hennessy, the center, picked in the 3rd round from Temple. Heir apparent probably to Alex Mack. Probably going to be in consideration for that other guard job opposite Lindstrom, where you start talking about Carpenter and Brown and what the hot garbage they gave us for that. We didn't give them a whole bunch of money, but we gave them money nonetheless. Hopefully he can be a good fit to go for that. One of the wild cards, because I think we are kind of thin at linebacker myself, is Michael Walker. Looking forward to seeing what he's going to do. Coming from Fresno State, not as familiar with stuff they do on the West Coast out there, but being picked in the 4th round from a team that's not in the national news all the time kind of worries me. But again, hopefully they did their homework and Michael Walker can contribute immediately. We have a big void where Devondre Campbell was, and we need to fill that as quick as possible. Jalen Hawkins from California is safety. Probably can't have too many other folks back there can have not enough people in the secondary. We need some help. So let's see how that ends up working out. And we got the punter, Frister, at round number 7. So those are our picks. Which one of those guys are you looking forward to seeing what they do? I think I got an idea of what most of y'all are going to say, but I'm going to start back in the back. Titus says Marlon Davidson and Hennessy. Hennessy is going to be very important. I'm hoping he can truly challenge for that guard position so he can get some live fire early on, because he's probably going to end up hiking the ball. This is the last year of Mack's contract and Alex Mack of his contract, and I don't see the Falcons unless we make a run of proportions we had never dreamed of, and they want to stick them around 1 year, almost like a Tony Gonzalez thing. But Hennessy is going to have to learn quick on the job. I hope he's the man. RJ Smith says Marlon Davidson. I'm telling you, I'll get to him in a second. Lisa says Marlon Davidson for sure. RJ says Michael Walker. I need to know a little bit more about him. If anybody has any insight on Michael Walker, I honestly have not looked as much as I probably should have. I'm really interested to see what his game was like. I saw some of the highlights, but he's out of all the people, trust me, I've even looked at the punter from Syracuse more than I've looked at Michael Walker, but I keep hearing that he's supposed to be a solid pick. Markeith says, I hope Davidson has the best year of all. He can instantly improve our interior pass rush and help us stop the run. That's my thing. I'm hoping he's that guy. But remember, they haven't sold, because he played a lot on the edge at Auburn at 300 pounds. Now, you don't see a lot of 300-pound guys get on that outside a lot, but I also saw him do a lot of work in there. And my boy D. Brown says Derek Brown, who was picked early in the draft, he's one of those guys that I just look at and say, if he's giving him props saying, oh, yeah, Marlon Davidson is the truth, I think he's the truth. Not that I had to look at that. Anthony Moss says Walker, too. Toddy says Tat is going to have a big year this season. It's a contract year, and he wants some new cars in a bigger house. Mark my word. Y'all think Tat going to cut his hair? Nobody ever talked about that, but he was supposed to cut his hair. He didn't get them double-digit sacks. Now, I haven't seen him lately, but I wonder, is he going to try to cut his hair this year? Not that should make a big difference, but to your point, Toddy, he should be very hungry. He should be very hungry because he's working on his next contract. I would probably think it is less than a 2% chance he re-signs with the Falcons for the mere fact that they didn't give him that 5th-year option, unless he just kicks behind so much that the Falcons try to do something for a 2-year or 3-year deal. But if he having a monster year, he doesn't need the Falcons next year. Tight end hindsight, I wish we would have kept Devondre Campbell. However, I don't think he liked playing in Atlanta at all. Maybe not. And he led this team in tackles last year, folks. He was one of those guys that slowly improved every year. Slowly improved. Even his coverage improved last year when he was going out there with those tight ends. Now, I'm not saying he was great, but his coverage improved a lot after that. Chadwick says, I just want Hennessy's jersey. Yeah, that's going to be a cool jersey. That will be a popular jersey for obvious reasons. Love Mack, but yes, it's time to say goodbye after this season. Falcons ring of honor, no doubt for him, and possibly a gold jacket. And people don't remember, Alex Mack probably didn't get a lot of national love because he played for Cleveland, but he actually held it down in Cleveland for a long time. I think he was a three-time All-Pro, I believe, when he was at Cleveland. I know he was three-time Pro Bowler, but he was pretty solid before he even got here. David says, the kid from Fresno State, hopefully he's an upgrade from Campbell. He was, and if he is, that's pretty good. Listen, Campbell was not a Debo, but Campbell fit the job he was supposed to do on the outside. Could we get a star to be out there? Maybe, if you could afford him. But I think for what he did, I don't give a lot of hate to Campbell. Campbell's pretty good. He's been working out a lot and lost almost 25 pounds in the offseason. Are you talking about Brother Davidson or Brother Tack? Let's see. Says Tack will be in Dallas next year. Okay, that'll be interesting. Chatwin, I'll only buy jerseys if they are real players. Well, Matt Hennessy is a real player, but that'll just be a fun jersey to have Hennessy on the back of your jersey like that. With these guys reporting this week, folks, we are coming close. I think I saw the countdown to 50 days before we do our next, before we start this season. And it's starting to get to the point where, you're starting to get excited. On an off subject a little bit, is I wonder what they're going to do with college football. You've heard over the last couple of days, I think it's Michigan State quarantined their team, and I forgot who else it was. It was another team that did the same thing. And those are things that you worry about going into the season with the Falcons and all of these NFL teams. Being, the bubble idea is a lot harder with that many more folks. And also keeping in mind, this is way more than 53 people you're bringing in the camp. You're bringing 70, 80 plus people in the camp and have to go ahead and make cuts as well. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all ends up working out, especially when you start talking about no preseason games. So when we see Seattle, we will be catching Seattle fresh, as they will be catching us fresh. The one good thing I see is us being able to have a little bit of advantage, I think, with Seattle having to make that trip out west this year. Chadwick says I'm an old dirty bird. RJ, I just want the defense to play well because I feel like the offense is going to be extremely explosive. So if the defense can start balling out, balling out, sorry about that, we're going to be a very hard team to beat. Listen, to me, that defensive line is key. If we can get the hype from Davidson, and I say that because it reminds me so much of Tack when I was hearing all the bravado and hearing all the stuff. And I like a young man with confidence. You got to have confidence, especially on defense. You have to have a little bit of aggression. You have to have a little bit of a mean streak in you. I see some of those things in Mr. Davidson, but I just want it to translate to the field. Because if we can get him to help that inside, that will make everything else, including a very, very young secondary, look good. Chadwick says 90. I think you're talking about folks they bring in the camp. So again, when you start talking about bringing that many folks together, that's going to be harder than a bubble to keep folks in there. Chadwick says every 4 years we blow up. That's true. We do. Toddy, I need my number one receiver at every single offseason workout this year. He doesn't have to do anything but show up. But for $22 million per season, he can't take those long offseason vacations from the team anymore. Front office did their job, paid him. Now we need him to be a bigger part of the team in the summertime. He was noticeably absent from the new uniform photo shoot, and we all know he sells the most jerseys on this team. Well said, and I agree with you. Listen, the last 2 years, we've gone to the, first it was, are we going to give Julio a little money to line his pocket? We had to go through that drama. Then last year, we had to go through to wait to see what Michael Thomas get, to see what Julio gets, more money drama. I agree with you 100%. This year, bro, I need you there day one. I need to see you on the field. I need to see you involved. Now, I will say the training camp we went to last year, the one I have my son and I took a lot of pictures of, he was there and he was doing a lot more coaching than he was actually doing out there on the field, like running plays. But, yeah, 22 mil, I need more. It's the one thing you cannot say about Matthew Ryan, y'all. Matt Ryan is leading the exercises. Matt Ryan is yelling out instructions. Matt Ryan, even in the little workout for the public, is overboard with trying to get those guys together on the same page. Those are the things we're going to need to come out of the chute early this year. This year, no preseason, so that gives your body even more chance. And granted, I know training camp is rough and you're going to get some nicks and bruises and stuff like that. But that's even more reason now without preseason to be able to preserve yourself. So by week one, when we line up against Seattle and whoever he's lining up against and whoever Ridley is lining up against, we are ready to go. Got to have your number one guy out there at wide receiver. And to your point, I don't need you coming in and out every other play. I need you to be out there on the field. And yes, I know you're over 30 years old, but they paid you all that money. I'm expecting you to be out there. He's got to. He's got to. And I need you to show up. Brother Jalen, how you doing, man? Good to see you, man. We're talking a little bit about the Falcons, hopefully with this extra time with no preseason, getting off to a good start. Talking a little bit about top 50 players of this decade, which was a short conversation because it wasn't a lot of greatness on the team during the decade. There was a lot of good, but really only 3 or 4 players that kind of stood out. Chapman said was out in California. I think he took White's spot as wide receiver coach. If I'm not mistaken, he was in Cali with Matt this year. Okay, cool. Julio and Gurley been working out together. That's a great thing. Philip says, hopefully our O-line can give Matt an extra set or 2 in the pocket. He would pick teams apart. We've come to find out, Philip, when you give Mr. Ice the room he needs and you give him the protection he needs, he's going to eat you up. That MVP year, yeah, he went down a lot, but when he had time, he picked folks apart. And I like the fact that, again, we're looking to be under the radar. There are folks out there that think we have absolutely no chance this year. I love it. Keep it that way. Y'all keep fawning over Brady. Use all your video up on Brady. Use all your video up on the controversy with Drew Brees and keep it going over there while the Falcons just sit back and do what they do. No, I'm not worried about Carolina. Lisa says, I like that Gurley wants to be here. And also, Lisa, I saw the commercial with Gurley on there. I'm sure y'all have seen it where he's wearing the Falcon T-shirt. I thought that was kind of cool to see that. But good deal. Tight end, that's all we need from him, Steve. He really don't have to participate much. Just be there for the young guys and set the tone early that he is involved. We all know he's a solid deep. That's the one thing you can say about Julio, man. Julio's diva-ness, if you want to say it, is not in a lot of talk in the press and a lot of talk on the field. His diva-ness might be in, yeah, I'll sit out this one play or two plays or whatever. So I'd rather have that than to have most of the drama we have with the ABs of the world, the Odell Beckhams of the world, and all of that stuff. I just want him to catch the ball when it's time for him to catch the ball. You do that, I'm fine. Terrence said, what do you think about our rookies? I liked a couple of the picks. The jury is still going to be out on A.J. Terrell until I see some games coming, and that's unfair probably to him. But I have to see him on the field against professional competition to give my true thought of him. Marlon Davidson, that's the guy I have circled right now. That's the guy that I'm really looking for. And Matt Hennessy to see if he can break into that offensive line so he can get an opportunity to learn what's going on before Mack takes off next year. But I'm looking forward to seeing what these rookies have done. And it's good to see that they signed Terrell and somebody else they signed too. I need to double check before I come on here. But it looks like at least the guys are getting paid. Philip said we are one key person, one player from perfection. Woo, I'd like to see who that player is. I'm hoping, Philip, that we can go out and get that veteran cornerback. That veteran cornerback is going to be key. There's really only one or two of them out there, and I know they're going to want money. That's the only thing that scares me a little bit. Was that last 7 weeks we had a facade, or was that really good defensive back play? I hope it was really good defensive back play. I have a feeling it is. Chad was saying, if not for Garoppolo, we would have won. We would have won that game. Not for Garoppolo, we would have won that game. Lisa said yes, he's a diva. Just a solid one. Yeah, look, Julio. You say what you want, and that's one of the reasons I think Julio does his thing on the field. There's no doubt. I think when you start talking about, well, a lot of people start saying who's better, him or Matt. When I hear all the stuff about Matt, I think that's the part that kind of bothers me. Matt, by far, is the most important person on our team. By far. And for somebody who's been in that quarterback position for as long as he has, and you can say this, when Matt Ryan is in the game, he is trying his best to win. He is trying. It doesn't look – I've never seen Matt at a position where he looks like he's just said, screw it. I've seen quarterbacks look like they've just given up. Head down, all that. I see Matt, every time I see Matt's trying to score. Matt's trying to move down the field. Matt's trying to motivate the guys, whether it be yelling at them or doing whatever he does. I like that in my quarterback, and especially today's quarterback. Now, Matt's time is running out, I think. If we can squeeze 3 years from that orange, that would be great. I think realistically, I'm looking at maybe 2 more years, and let's see what happens. But as far as a leader is concerned, and as far as somebody who's probably the most important person on the field, it's got to be Matt. And I tell you what, too, for everybody talking about Julio Jones and stuff like that, listen, I really want to see what Ridley is going to come back and give us. I am super ready to see what Mr. Hayden Hurst is going to have at the tight end position. Those two guys, to me, are going to be what stirs the drink this year. You know what you got in the backfield with Gurley. I know people are thinking about his injuries, but at the end of the day, that's still Todd Gurley. So he's going to give you some flashes. You know what you got with Gurley. You know what you got with number 11, and you know what you got with number 2. Anything you get from Hayden Hurst and Calvin Ridley is going to be absolutely a bonus. So when you add that up and you talk about Jones, you talk about Ridley, you talk about Hurst, you talk about Gurley, which of the other young receivers is going to step up? Is it going to be Zacchaeus? Is it going to be Blake? Is it going to be Gage? I loved Gage's game. Gage kind of became that possession receiver last year during a lot of those games, if you guys remember. Who's going to be that guy? Who's going to be that Sanu guy? I think Gage kind of showed up when Ridley got hurt a little bit last year. I like the growth of those 3 guys. Probably not going to be able to bring everybody in. I know Treadwell is on the team too, so that's going to be interesting. From an offensive standpoint, Dirk Cutter, you will be on the firing squad if you can't get these guys to average at least 28 points a game. Way too much talent. I know everything's been made about the number 1 picks on all across the board. I get it. But way too much talent on this offense to screw it up. You got to do a better job. Got to. Chapman says, I've never seen Matt without his notebook. Yeah, Gage. Yeah, Anthony, on paper, the offense should drop 30 a game. And that's the thing, folks. When you start thinking about the potential of what this team can do, everybody's rightfully so. You have the absolute right to drag this team through the mud for what they did those first 8 games. Unacceptable. Probably should have made some changes then, but you know what? We didn't. And I said, we didn't make changes. I'm going to move on. But coming into this year right here, you have no excuses. And you know what? I like the fact that Captain America is going to Tampa Bay. I like the fact that he's coming because you know what? That's another challenge. That's another challenge. You don't think for 1 minute Matt Ryan is sitting back saying to himself, I just got to beat this dude. This dude stole my Hall of Fame jersey away. And there's no other way to put it. Tom Brady single-handedly in that fourth quarter, if Matt Ryan doesn't go back to the Super Bowl, Tom Brady single-handedly stole his Hall of Fame jacket. And for anybody who wants to argue with me, let's go. In the happy world, if Matt goes to win that championship, Matt is a top 10 all-time in yards. He would be an MVP. He would be a Super Bowl winner. He would be a 4-time Pro Bowler. And I think that matches a lot of stats as well. It exceeds what Eli's done, except for the extra Super Bowl, if he does that. Now, bringing it back to reality, he didn't do that. And why? Captain America down in Tampa. So if you don't think his competitive juices are going to be lit even more to beat him, think again. And also think about him and Drew Brees. Drew Brees and Matt Ryan, I think they're coming up on being the most, the 2 quarterbacks who have played each other the most in a series. I think they're coming close to it. And I'm trying to remember who was it that was number 1. But they were coming very close to being the 2 quarterbacks who played each other. Don't you think that Matt Ryan is tired of losing to Drew Brees? I know they split last year. And actually split. No, 18 they swept. They split last year. Split in 2017. We got them in 2016. But at the end of the day, don't you think Matt Ryan wants to send Drew Brees off into that booth in the sky to finally get him over with? That is somebody that I know Matt Ryan will never say it, but he wants to destroy Brady and Breeze this year just to get his props. If Atlanta can come out on top in this division this year, even with Brady being 43 years old, doesn't matter because the 6 heavy rings on his fingers weigh a lot. If he can come out on top and be the top passer and have Atlanta win the division in this year, that may give him points towards that Hall of Fame jacket. Philip says Brady would not make it to week 16. He has a bounty on his head in the South. I absolutely believe that, without a doubt. RJ says, I'm excited to see what Treadwell brings to the offense, too. I am, too. I'm really surprised at the move, to be honest with you. I thought maybe he was being brought in for special teams, but he didn't do a lot of special teams with the Vikings. I'm very interested to see what he does. Chad said, welcome to the NFC South. He will get hit. Shanahan traded for Garoppolo. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. And it's playbook. Oh, the playbook. Yeah, I got you. So when you start thinking about all those things, these are things that make you say, these guys are going to be motivated to do what they need to do. I plan on being on here 1 hour. I have gone on over 5 minutes. We'll talk again later on this week. Hopefully we can have some good updates from camp later on. I appreciate y'all comments. We'll talk about it again next week. Check me out on YouTube, Steve's Sports Talk and More on YouTube. You'll see the same thing if you want to see the replay. Y'all take it easy. Take care. And we'll holler at y'all later. And remember, rise up.